Hello, hello. Mission accepted. Mission accepted. What are you doing on the show today? I know because you are the best audience, and I am going to change that word. You know I am. I think you guys are the best audience ever. But shall I say that you are the most vibrationally high, wealthy audience that we got. And if you are not, you are going to be by the time you finish listening to Dawna share about vibrational wealth, creating emotional wealth. So what is that? What is that? Because, we're all attracted to that word wealth. I think we all want either wealthy businesses, wealthy relationships, wealthy health. And she does all of that, but I know she's going to be focusing on that one thing that many people had on their list for this year to increase. And that is that arena around money. And so I am so excited to bring Dawna. Now, here's something interesting. You guys, I'm sure you are used to funky titles for cool people that come on to Mission Accepted, right? You're like, where did that come from? And what's this entrepreneur thing? And what's these new words that you're using, Deb? Well, it's a new time. And definitely, I love what this woman stands for. She is referred by someone that you guys know and love dearly. You are very well versed in how much work I do with Angel, and Dawna and Angel are great lady pals, gal pals. So the mind whisperer, she is known in the media as the mind whisperer. So what is that? I think it's best that she answers that herself. And how does someone get to be, I'm going to step up, I'm going to take the mission, I accept the calling to be a mind whisperer, right? So Dawna, please, welcome yourself to the show. And thank you so much for taking time today to come on.
Yes, and thank you so much, Deb, for having me on here today. It's a pleasure and an honor to be sharing with you and the entire listening audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So look, start off a little bit because you know what? Our audience loves to hear stories of gumption, and many of the people in our audience are entrepreneurs themselves. And I always say when it's the missions being accepted, it's not just in the beginning. Sometimes it's harder 5 years down the road than being naive and jumping in with all your courage and all your bravery and thinking all your dreams are going to come true in 90 days or less, right? So as we go along, I was listening to a great show this morning, staying inspired, and I'm year 31. So I know that it doesn't really matter when people come to you, but you have a pretty cool belief around when they find you, there's probably a reason. So share about that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So everybody, it doesn't matter who you are all looking for a life of happiness, prosperity, and love, whether that's having better health, increased wealth, or a relationship. And what's really interesting about that is usually this is how it goes. People will say, I want to create more money in my life. And so we all do. We all want abundance and prosperity because when we find out the why is always common. It's because there's a certain lifestyle, a certain way that everybody wants to live in their own way. It might look different than somebody else's, but it goes back to their family or a relationship or their lifestyle, living at the beach, but working only 2 hours a day, whatever it may look like. And after about 15 or 20 minutes within the conversation, they'll go, is that why I have this with my thyroid? Because it also affects your health in that. And so those are like the 3 key components. But what I love to focus on and talk a lot about is on the money wealth side, because there is a lot of subconscious vibrational patterns that we're not aware of because we're an energy body and money is energy outside of us, and it responds based on what we are doing. And so it's all about creating this awareness out in the world.
That's amazing. And I think the one thing I really enjoyed in our conversation in a little pre-show is that conceptually, I think people understand energy. And then some, they're like, I don't get this vibration kind of thing. And one of the ways that I've always been able to kind of people have that idea and understanding of what I believe you're saying, and if I'm not right, you're going to correct me, is that when you walk into a room, when you walk into a room and there's people that you don't know, and there's someone that you're really drawn to, right? You're someone that you're really drawn to. And it's like, you don't know anything about them. You don't know their name. You don't know what they do for a living. You don't know if you're going to benefit them or they're going to benefit you, but you're drawn. You're like, oh, well, introduce me to that person. Or there might be someone where you're like, I don't know, right? You're kind of, so you're bumping up. It's like your energy field's bumping up with their energy field. But the one thing that I really love that you said is because many of us that have been working on financial abundance or manifestation of more what you say, money, love, heart-centered experiences, health, is that many of us have heard the words limiting beliefs. But what I like about what you said is that, because that's very linear and we can work and read the books and what have you, but you're like, I go under that. Like, what is, when you said emotional, like emotional wealth, explain that, because a lot of people go, I know, I think about, comes about, whatever. But to me, it sounded like you do something a little, I don't know, deeper, more powerful.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So we all have our thoughts, and they say our thoughts create our reality, but our thoughts are a combination of also our beliefs and the patterns that we have, and they come from many different areas. But just like radio waves, you can't see a thought, you can experience it, but underneath that is a vibrational frequency that drives the thought forward to come into a reality or repel it away from it. And so, measurable by science, if we look into quantum physics, we have feelings and emotions. And that's what Nikola Tesla, I believe, meant when he said, if you think of this, the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. Well, we can't necessarily always see the thought or see the emotion or feeling, but it can be measured, which creates the energy field around the person. So just like you said, when you walk into a room, you're attracted to some people, but repelled by others. It's based on those emotions and feelings. And so when we think about creating unlimited wealth, money is outside of us, but is also a form of energy. But by itself, it doesn't do anything until you apply the energy that you are to it based on how you feel about money. And the words we use with how we describe ourselves energetically and the things that we need are identical to how we describe our money. And how you feel about yourself, how money responds to your life. So if you want more abundance, there's certain ways to look at some of the reprogramming of the vibrational frequencies to actually attract more of that into your life.
I love what you just said. I'm reading probably for me, the second most powerful book I've ever read about marketing. So, I read Think and Go Rich 10 times, and that's really about abundance. And I'm a big reader. In this one, I'm going through for the second time, and it's 400 pages. And as I was reading it, they were just talking about these different marketing techniques that you could do to become. And then they used a word. I was like, whoa, that's exactly what you're talking about. They said, so you too can become filthy rich. And I was like, what is it about filthy that's even attractive? And I was like, isn't it interesting how sometimes we describe money? No one wants to become filthy. Filthy, if you look it up in the dictionary, is not, in your top 3 of things you want to feel today, right?
Exactly.
So I was like, interesting that they would put filthy rich together. I was like, I just caught it because I caught it. And I know that wasn't the intention of the author when they wrote it. They were talking, so I'm like, I just crossed that word out and literally took it out of that page. So I didn't read it again. And I was like, I don't want to be filthy rich. I want to be happily rich. I want to be, spiritually, whatever it is.
Rich.
Yeah, successfully rich. So I think that's a great way to kind of give an analogy to what it is that you're sharing. So look, there's a lot of entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs that want to have a different experience financially. So tell us how what do you do with people? Like what's that process? What can you share for that to happen? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So usually the conversation starts with, what is it about your life that you want to change? And when we uncover that, we can uncover what those emotional frequencies are. How do you feel by not having it? How do you feel by having it? And then when we uncover the lower emotion, we really go several layers underneath that. So someone might say, I feel frustrated, but we have to go several layers under that to really get to the true emotion of what's happening. And then when we're there, we can find where it's located in the body, because where do you feel the rage at in your body? You know exactly where it is. And so we use the body as a point where we can go back and recheck, but also it will trigger a memory in the subconscious. When was the first time you ever felt rage in your stomach, for example? Well, you're going to go back to a time when you were really little, and we can uncover what the event is. When we do that, we can also find out what was needed, because we didn't need anger or rage at that time. When you were like 3, you might have needed, understanding and compassion. And we start identifying what those things truly feel like to you. And then through what I call the mind whispering technique, what we do is we make that transition vibrationally. And when that happens, it happens in the person's brain. The pathway goes down different neurons. So the event doesn't change, but the perspective and the feelings underneath it shift and change. And then we go back through, we recheck all the different points when you were certain ages, what's happening in the body, and how it looks now to what you asked to change. Making sure that all of the lower vibrational emotions are not there, but the higher ones are. And so that whole process typically takes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, adjusting, shifting one thing for a person. But what's really interesting is it doesn't matter what topic we talk about, whether it's health or relationships or just even money. When clients really get down to the point where they're saying things like, I want to know I'm worthy or that I'm enough and valued and appreciated. I didn't get that when I was little. I grew up like this. And when those new feelings come in, their money supply automatically adjusts because those are the same words we have in the financial planning world. My background was in financial planning, and we would say net worth. Here, your assets appreciated, the value of your accounts are, and oh, do you have enough money to fund your goal? And if you didn't feel like you were enough on the inside, chances are you didn't have enough on the outside. So when we really get down to the heart of it, no matter where we start, their money supply always increases a minimum of 25% or more just by shifting and changing the vibrational frequency.
Well, it's very interesting, isn't it? And so one of the questions I was going to ask you is something we don't know about you. So we now know that you came from a financial background, but we'll cover that as well. And it seems interesting. I mean, the word that's coming to me right now, it's very transactionary, right? It's like how you feel on the inside and listening to you speak. So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that people come to you for a private session or they do this in a group. Like when you said an hour and a half to 2 hours, I'm assuming that if people want to have this experience with you, because it sounds like it's pretty personal, they come to you for a private session, or how do you work with people in this?
Yeah, absolutely. I do private session work no matter where you're based at, because my practice is international. But those are the people that just want it done for them. And then I have people who want to learn the technique and actually go through in a transformation, which is a quarterly program. And so I do that, and I teach quarterly, and that's all done in group sessions. And then this year, we are also implementing the different healing retreats to start incorporating this in various locations around the world.
So like a retreat where people get to go for 2 days or 3 days or 5 days or what have you.
Or a week to like Peru or Mexico.
There you go. Different places.
Yeah.
So go be abundantly cared for in the, retreat is I just love that word. It just evokes. Now there you go. There's a word that evokes great emotion. Okay. Well, you know what? Tell us a little bit about something. I was just gonna say, tell us a little bit about something that we don't know about you, right? Tell us, like, first of all, how did you step into this work?
Yeah, that's a great story. Real briefly, where I grew up in Silicon Valley, and it was during the high-tech era. So it automatically paints a picture that everyone is abundant and prosperous and making all kinds of money. But that wasn't true. And that wasn't necessarily the reality of the area I lived in, because there was a lot of blue-collar workers. And I grew up with my family near the poverty line. And what I mean by poverty was that both of my parents worked. We were on food stamps, we were on welfare. And then the next door neighbors, I learned when I was a teenager, would go behind grocery stores to the dumpsters to gather the day old food to bring it over to my house so we would have food to eat. And when I learned that, I got my first job. But I chose to become a financial advisor because I was so passionate about helping people create unlimited abundance in their lives, to have opportunities for them, their children, that I didn't have. And so I chose that career. I was there for about 10 years, and I was responsible for about $500 million of other people's money, which actually really kind of sounds sexy, but it wasn't, because I did give up my own health. I gave up a marriage, and I was left financially devastated. And during that transformational time, I was also in a different relationship after my marriage ended. It was a few years. And the person decided that it was okay to be domestically violent towards me. And there was a day that he almost took my life. And he had his hand around my throat. And just before I took my last breath, he took it off. and then expected me to retaliate. Well, I got out of the situation the very next day. I was packed, I was down the road because that was not acceptable, and dedicated my life to a path of healing if my children and I were kept safe. And I made this promise to the universe, to creator, to whatever you want to call it, to myself, that I will always do this. And it doesn't matter what I say today, I cannot not be a healer on this level because of that promise that I made. And so since then, here I am 15 years later, fulfilling my promise every single day, because it's really all about making the world a better place. And if I can affect one person, help shift, change their vibration, and they go out and help 10 people, great. And if somebody's listening to this, are all the people, and you feel better by listening to it, and you go out vibrationally, awesome. We're on stages, because I can do this with people, 10,000 people in front of me at the same time. It doesn't have to be one-on-one. Then I really believe I'm doing my part in creating the world better for everyone.
Well, that story in itself, without you even doing anything more, is empowering and reminds me of many stories that I've heard of that situation and those places where, you never think you'd be and you kind of don't know how you got there.
Exactly.
And sometimes it can happen like so surprising. And it happens to women of gumption, I call it, women that, have some voice or use some voice or made some place in the world. And there's just something that somehow reverts or reverses or what have you. It's very, and then there's that moment, that moment of clarity, whatever it is for someone that you're like, I need to make a change and I need to make a shift. And it's a scary and courageous moment. And so congratulations for that bravery and pulling through and sharing that. Just sharing the story alone is inspiring and motivating. When I think about the people listening, and you have this gift, and I'm sure you too, where you're doing your show, because by the way, Dawna has an incredible podcast, and she'll let you know what it is, so you can go and listen to her, and you can hear it. So for people that are like, hey, can't call you today, and go da 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 da, I'm really inspired to listen to. Can you give someone some tips that they can take, that they can start to use today, that will shift them vibrationally until they can get to Peru or Mexico or your class or have a session with you? Like, what is it we can just do? Yeah.
One of the greatest things that I talk about is creating awareness, because, over 94% of the time, we are not aware of how we feel. So set a timer on your phone for some odd time, like 2 hours and, 23 minutes or something from the time you're in now. And when it goes off, just stop and ask yourself, how do I feel? And if you're in a lower emotion like stress or frustration, stop. If you're in the higher emotion, like you're happy and it's at peace and it's good, keep on going. But in that lower emotion, what you're going to do is we want to transform that. So you're going to use your breath to do part of that transformation, because when we breathe in oxygen, all the good things our body needs. And when we breathe out the toxins, all the things our body doesn't need. So if you're in an energy of stress or chaos and you stop, ask yourself, what would you rather feel? Peace and balance. So when you breathe in, you're going to breathe in peace and balance and breathe out stress and chaos. And you're going to do that for 2 to 3 minutes. Then when you're done, reset the timer, go back to your activity. You're going to have more focus, more clarity, more balance. Work is going to feel more like effortless or whatever it is that you're doing. And when that timer goes off again, stop and ask yourself how you feel. But it's all about checking in with yourself, creating that awareness, and then you can use your breath to transform that. Now, that's a very conscious way of making a transformation, but it works until we have the ability to sit down and really see what's going on, what's underneath it all, and transform it permanently in the mind.
Well, great. Just stop, and it's funny. We've been talking about that a lot lately, about just taking pause and taking stop, and how difficult it is in a world of productivity. And seeing that as a really important piece. I mean, whether it's a short time or a long time. I just personally came back from holidays. And so, what it's like when you come back from holidays. I know your schedule. I know how you play in the world, right? Nothing like helping as many people as we can. And so there was, it was a little back to back, and that's as expected. And there was a certain point where I had like 15 or 20 minutes. And for me, I was like, I tend to go and listen to music. I go turn my phone over, listen to music, have a little dance and get back at her. all my close friends know, hey, you're a couple minutes late. What were you listening to? But yesterday I was like, ooh, I had 20 minutes. And I just thought, what could I do for me that's going to make me feel like I have sense of my day? And I was like, now this might sound straight. I just came back from a trip. So obviously I brought back some duty free. I have a dinner party in a few weeks. And I was like, I'm going to reorganize the bar. It didn't take long. It took a few minutes, but I was like, and honestly, it was 10 or 15 minutes of just doing so. I was like, what do I feel like doing? I'm like, oh, I clearly need to feel like I have some control today. And I just organized the bar and had them orderly in 15 minutes. And it really did shift my whole day. It really did shift my whole day. Okay. So I know that we're probably getting to time to wrap up a little bit, but can you give us a testimony or an experience that someone came to that the audience can relate to? I know that you said that when people really take time to stop and think and dig down and find these emotional vibrations and shift them, what are some of the things that you've seen with your clients? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time that have been notable that people can maybe relate to.
Yeah, absolutely. I can think of one of a client of mine. This was about 6 years ago, and she had breast cancer for the second time and didn't want to go through the traditional route. So we did the process, and within about 4 months, the cancer left her body. At the 6 month mark, she had to go in to the doctor to get all the testing done. And then I don't know if you guys know a lot about it, but if you've had cancer, you have to go every 6 months to be tested to make sure. And after you pass the 5 year mark, you're considered cancer free. Well, she's about 6, 7 years now, breast cancer free, doctor verified by utilizing this process. But here's what I absolutely love. She is now choosing to live her best life ever. She didn't think she was going to move forward and carry on, but she did. And during that time, she went to Cesar Millan's dog training because she wanted to learn how to train dogs. She paints portraits of dogs. So then she decided to buy property. Then she built the house. And then she did the dog kenneling and the dog training there. And now she has a mini goat farm because she loves goats. And I see this in social media, and she is loving her life and living it to the fullest. And that is what brings me the greatest joy. Now, what also shifted and changed? Her financial situation, because all of the resources started flowing in for her to do that before, when she didn't even think she was going to be here. And so I have several stories, several client testimonies that are like that. And when I watch and I get to meet them in person for the first time and things like that, those are some of the best and sweetest moments ever, because they're living their best life, they're making the world a better place, and they lift it up in vibration. So that I'm going to cry if I keep going, but that's what I absolutely
Okay, well, we won't
love.
make you cry today. We won't make you cry today. I think that's pretty profound. And, I think so interesting, right? Like everybody's dream is so different. I don't think it's ever come across my vibration that I would want to own a goat farm, So, and then I'm sure someone's like, I have no desire. What are you doing? I would never want to plan to work with 375 women in a speaking forum. No, thank you. They're like, how's it going? Right. So we all vibrate at our own level of passion. So my friend, I do have a final question for you. Oh, yeah. And then you're going to share, please. Actually, you know what? Go ahead and share with people how to reach you beforehand. And then I got this nice question I want to ask you.
Okay, so probably the easiest way, if you're in the United States, all you have to do is text the word abundance to 26786, abundance to 26786. That's going to connect you to booking a connection call with me, see what your money block is, anything you want to discuss, and also to all the social media on the website, which everything's under Dawna Campbell. So if you Google it, you can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. And of course, it's always in the show notes. And so, look, Dawna, I know that you are a big advocate of people, getting on other people's audiences. Yes. You have a podcast yourself. So I'm sure that's going to be listed there as well. And you guys, as you're listening, and we've got one of the biggest International Women's Day and Mother's Day events that's ever done happening. If you want to speak, if you want to share like Dawna is, and you want to do it on stage, you know where to reach me. This is not difficult. It's deb@debdrummond.com. And if you don't want to speak, but you want to be recognized in the event, then become an author with the other 262 women. And for more information, you can reach out to me. Now, the question that I have for you is a little bit on the outside of that, but it definitely matches vibration. Definitely matches vibration. I think there's even a couple of songs like Good Vibration. Okay. You're on your way to a desert island, one of your retreats, or you're deciding to go, but guess what? You're just going all by yourself. and you're packing your one suitcase because you don't need 14 bathing suits because you're just there by yourself. So you've got room for one album. And this is the album that you could not imagine not listening to for the rest of your days. So what album would you take with yourself on this trip?
Oh my goodness. This is hard because I am not very good with artists and song titles. Oh my goodness.
What band? I mean, it just could be an album, like it's an album. So even if you just give us the band, don't worry about giving us the record title, but give us the band.
Okay. I would probably have to take the Eagles with me.
Oh yeah.
That's what comes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it's just fun.
It is fun. I was listening to Hotel California the other day. I was like, I'm in Mexico listening to Hotel California. So that's awesome. All right. Well, the Eagles. And I had the pleasure of, when I decided to do a tour in Ireland, which, you know, I'm doing again next year, but I went from Belfast all the way down to County Cork, and there's this amazing tent. It's a tent. Like it literally is a tent in County Cork, and it's called the Marquee. And you go in and it's like you're at I don't know, a farm or like a circus, and there's like these seats and there's like dirt and there's a stage, and that's where I got to see Don Henley. I'm like, Don Henley's playing at the Marquee. It's a tent in Ireland, and apparently everybody plays there. So there you go. There you go. Stay on the show a little bit longer. We just have another thing that I want to wrap up with you. So don't hang up when everyone else hangs up. You guys love. Incredible recognition of how we play in the world. And it's maybe something a little different to think about, that we live not only vibrationally. I don't think it's new news, not for you guys, that we are energetic as well, and that we're vibrating to things that we want, and you can attract things that you want. And what an incredible thing to be able to clean that up so that it's aligned. So it's aligned with what it is that you want. I mean, I just hear peace and easy. When I hear Dawna talk, I just hear peace and easy. And honestly, the easier this is, the better, right? We have enough stuff going on. So you know where to reach her. And as always, I so thank you and so appreciate you. You guys are the best. And I know that you're sharing these episodes and you're sending in comments. And if you want to speak, or there's someone that you want to hear that you think is going to better your life or your business, you know where to reach us. So thank you so much. Bless you. Have an amazing week until we talk again. Be groovy. Bye for now.